The life of my YouTube channel just flashed before my eyes, you people, because I'm absolutely just retired from YouTube after what just happened. Am I even live? Okay. Who even knows anymore? Who is YouTube working? Who knows? But I have a story for you guys. I just desperately needed to share. One tidbit though. Pat Burrell is not a player of the 90s. Pat Burrell came up in the year 2000. And for all of those that thought Pat Burrell was Pat the Bat was played in the 90s like I did, Pat Burrell actually retired kind of early and won 2 championships, including in his prime for the 2008 Phillies. Because when I think the 2008 Phillies, I think Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, Ryan Howard, and them boys. We get all that. But Pat Burrell was basically in his prime and definitely contributed a whole heck of a lot to that 2008 Phillies team. Then he spent a couple of years, won a championship with the Giants. So Pat Burrell has 2 World Series rings, and really he hung it up pretty early. I don't know if he just didn't get the contract he thought, but all these guys hanging on till in their 40s. Pat Burrell was done by like age 34 or something. And it's just really funny because he was the first overall pick. And I could have swore like my idea of Pat Burrell was just shattered last night looking at his Wikipedia, realizing that he was exclusively a player of the 2000s and just not really realizing how young of a player he was while I was watching him play. I always just thought he was this veteran guy. I can't tell you why, but let's hope that YouTube continues to work, because the video I want to make, the video I just spent 45 minutes making, is a video on former number 1 overall pick, 2004's number 1 overall pick in the MLB draft, Matt Bush. Now, when I started that video and talked for 45 minutes, I thought that there was going to be a cherry on top, and I thought that it was going to be like a cool story. Like, here's this guy. He spent so much time. He's had a hard life. He had a trouble sometime, and now he's in the majors living his dream. I can say 2 things. I'm Matt fucking Bush is one of the funniest things I've ever read. And fuck you, Matt Bush, is what I actually have to say to you. Matt Bush was drafted number 1 overall, 1 spot ahead of Justin Verlander, to show you how much of a waste of a pick this was. This guy was drafted number 1 overall, 1 spot ahead of Justin Verlander. He spent 5 years with the San Diego Padres organization, in which he was a shortstop, but he got hurt, and then he tore a ligament in his elbow, and actually, take that back. He had been hurt. Then they changed him to pitcher. Then he tore his elbow. Then he got Tommy John surgery. So, struggled, hurt, never went above Class A ball. They converted him to pitcher. He never got past A ball as a pitcher even. And then he needs Tommy John. And they actually protect him in the Rule 5. There's a Rule 5 draft coming up where basically – if you end up taking a guy in the Rule 5, I think you do have to put them or give them some sort of major league time. So it would have been a commitment for a team to take a chance on this guy after already having been hurt, changed positions. He had kind of gone through a lot in 5 years. Well, he was protected by the Padres, so they were content on making it work with this number 1 overall pick, despite having to change positions and despite his injury, a very severe injury and a very major surgery. Then he decides to get drunk, go to a high school, and beat up 2 kids with a golf club. So take that for what it is, but he was gone. He was, even after protecting him. And you know what the funniest thing is? They let this guy go for Cliff Floyd. Cliff Floyd. They let this guy go, which I just think's hilarious, because Cliff Floyd was a pretty good player. The Padres ended up going 75-87 that year, the year that they let go of Matt Bush, who never even saw their major league roster, and they brought in Cliff Floyd for his final year in the bigs. And it's just crazy. This kid was a number 1 overall pick, and they let him go for an aging Cliff Floyd just to sell some tickets, I guess. I mean, because definitely if you're 75-87, people are still coming to your park, and you give him a name like Cliff Floyd, he might sell some tickets. But it is insane to think that you would give up on a number one overall player who's now a pitching prospect. You'd give him up for 1 year of a veteran bat like Cliff Floyd. It just didn't make any sense. But then again, you have to figure out that he beat up 2 kids with a golf club while he was drunk in a high school parking lot, because everyone knows the best place to be drunk when you're a professional baseball player is at a high school beating up kids with a golf club. Well, then he goes on the Blue Jays actually signed him with a zero tolerance policy. After such a ridiculous incident like that, they signed him with absolutely zero tolerance. Oh, might I add that when he was doing this to these high school kids, that he told them, "I'm Matt fucking Bush." And if there's one thing about the MLB, no one knows who you are until you're in the MLB. So just because you were the number 1 overall draft pick, I was looking at Dansby Swanson and I believe his name is Casey Mize are the only 2 draft picks, number 1 overall draft picks I've even heard of in the last almost 10 years now. So for this kid to be at a high school, having never played above single A baseball, and he's telling these kids, "I'm Matt fucking Bush." Are you out of your mind? Like, no one knows who you are, and why are you this drunk dude that's beating us up with a golf club? Super odd. Like, clearly, the drunken thing is one thing, but I'm just not understanding like where this kid like got this head from. He thinks he's Matt fucking Bush. No one knows who you are. You play single A baseball, dude. So, and it's not like he was like this grand short, like he'd already converted positions, been through Tommy John surgery. Like, I mean, at this point, he's more or less hanging on to what would have been a really good career. Like, he's already hanging on to like what he has left of his prospects. And he signed a $3 million signing bonus, the second largest in the history of Padre baseball. He signed a $3 million signing bonus and proceeded to never make it past single A in converted positions, got hurt, beat up kids with a golf club for $3 million. That's what the Padres got. So then he goes to the Blue Jays organization. They sign him understanding that he is under zero tolerance policy. Well, he was allegedly involved in a drunken assault. Gosh dang it. Is this really not on here? Oh, that's right. That's right. See, I did this 45-minute video and most of the details are still fresh in my mind, but there actually is so many incidents with this guy that it's hard to keep track. So after leaving the Padres, he signs with the he was released in 1 month, I think, from the Blue Jays because only a month after the thing with. Wait a minute. He was designated for assignment after being protected in the Rule 5 draft by the Padres. He was actually designated for assignment to bring in Cliff Floyd, which is hilarious. And then they actually traded him to the Blue Jays. It doesn't say what the Blue Jays gave up, but only a month after being traded, he was released for violating that zero tolerance policy that the Blue Jays agreed to him with because he insulted and berated a woman. He ended up now this kid threw 98 miles an hour. He berated and assaulted this woman because she drew on his face after he passed out at a party. So he followed her outside and started throwing baseballs at her head and trying to break into her car. Maybe not be such a lightweight. Like, it's your fault you got your face drawn on, dude. And we'll get more into it. But basically, he gets let go. And then I brought up this whole thing, too, in my other video about it is nice. It's super refreshing that the Blue Jays, like they're like, okay, we'll give this kid a second chance. He's the former number 1 overall pick, right? But within a month, he screwed up, and they just let him go. They just cut him. Pretty much in stark contrast to 15 years later when Roberto Osuna is the fastest player to 100 saves. And is immediately suspended 75 games for domestic abuse. And the Blue Jays are like, well, unlike Matt Bush, this guy's actually a major leaguer, and he's the quickest to 100 saves. So Let's make sure we get something in return for him. So, as much as the Houston Astros get crap, like why were the Blue Jays trading this guy for pieces back? Like if you wanted to really make a statement, make a stand against domestic violence, you cut that guy and you cut him that day and you don't get anything in return for him. You just hope that other teams send a similar message and they don't sign him. The fact that they got pieces back for Roberto Osuna is just, it's kind of disgusting, actually, that no one even brings up the Blue Jays part in that. And now, as soon as a free agent, and who knows if he'll pitch again. But he ends up on, let's see, he ends up on Tampa Bay. Oh yeah, that's right. So it's with Tampa Bay that the major incident happens, where, and I need to look at this guy. To this day, Matt Bush, to this day, he is a major league pitcher for the Texas Rangers. To this day, Matt Bush is the key suspect, if you will, in 2 additional hit and run incidences that occurred on the same day of the hit and run incident that he was found guilty for and served prison time for. This hit and run incident, he was driving Brandon Guyer of Guyer's Guy fame, along with good guy David Murphy, of that similar lore. It's very troubling that Brandon Guyer's name comes up in this story at all. He should be nowhere near the Matt Bush name. But for whatever reason, Brandon Guyer let this alcoholic borrow his car. I mean, at this point, he's drunkenly assaulted high school kids. I mean, he's a professional baseball player who went to a high school, got drunk, and beat up kids. Then he's passing out at parties trying to beat up women. Like, clearly this guy, if it's not an alcohol problem, it's a behavioral problem one way or the other. And it just doesn't seem like a guy I would let borrow my car. But Brandon Guyer let Matt Bush borrow his Dodge Durango, and he proceeded to potentially be involved in 3 hit-and-run accidents, one that he was convicted of, in which he ran over a 72-year-old man's head. Ran over his head, fled the scene. You got listen to these charges. He was arrested and charged with 2 counts of DUI with property damage, 1 count of DUI with serious bodily injury, 1 count of leaving the scene of an accident with an injury, 1 count of driving with a suspended license, and 2 counts of leaving the scene of an accident with damage to property. In the incident, Bush hit 72-year-old motorcyclist Tony Tufano on U.S. Route 41 northbound in Port Charlotte, Florida, running over his head as he fled the scene in a Dodge Durango belonging to Brandon Guyer. According to a witness, Tufano only survived the incident because he was wearing his helmet. And this is basically where I ended my last video, because I don't care to go in to the things with the Rangers. Okay. Like, the guy is a professional baseball player for the Texas Rangers right here, right now. Okay. And it looks like he's here to stay. I mean, he's only 35. So like his prime is obviously, I just can't believe it. I'm at a loss for words. This guy, if not for this 72-year-old man being responsible enough to wear a helmet while riding his motorcycle, he would be dead and this guy would still be in prison. And when I did the original video, I was like, I kept reading along, and I was waiting for and he's a good, like, nothing proves that this guy is a good guy. Basically, he got out of prison. His dad helped him a bunch. He was working at Golden Corral, and somehow he had a tryout in the parking lot of Golden Corral, was signed to the Texas Rangers, immediately brought up to Double-A, and before too long, he was called up to the majors. And my thing is, he gets his first win in the game that Rougned Odor and Jose Bautista got into their big brawl. And the reason that there weren't more questions surrounding this guy is because of something like that. Like, hey, isn't this the guy that ran over that 72-year-old dude's head with a Dodge Durango? Wait, what is this? A fight breaking out? I don't know. Like, yes, he did. He served his time. He served like 3 years in prison. He served up to like 51 months in jail. And we're supposed to understand that, like, everyone deserves a second chance, but this isn't this guy's second chance. This is this guy's like 4th chance. And it's troublesome to me. It really is. Had that man not worn his helmet, had been safe when riding his motorcycle, then Matt Bush would have ran over his head and just killed him. Like Matt Bush did nothing to save this man's life. He like it's only because the victim was being responsible that he is alive today. If he had not have worn a helmet, Matt Bush would have ran over his head, killed him. Oh, and this is the other part. I don't know how I missed this part. So he witnesses watch him run over this guy. To this day, he's still the main suspect in 2 other hit and runs that occurred that day. So if we're going to piece all of it together, goes on 2 hit and runs, then finishes his 3rd one where he runs the guy's head over and proceeds to go to a strip club, jump on the stage, and only then, after he's committed 3 hit and runs, almost fucking killed a guy, and then goes to a strip club and bum rushes the stage, only then is he arrested. And guess what? Tying this all together, clearly it's alcoholism. This guy blew a .18. Now, I don't want to minimize alcohol abuse in any manner, but when you're blowing a .18 and you didn't do all that because you were drunk. I mean, if he's the alcoholic that I'm led to believe, he's just getting his buzz on at .18 to commit those string of crimes. Also, let it be known that I have been on Wikipedia pages of athletes who have committed murders, that went to prison for committing murder. And even they don't have a tab on Wikipedia that says criminality. This guy's Wikipedia page has a tab for criminality as if it's his state of mind. So as much as I wanted to make a video about like the redemption of Matt Bush, I'm not seeing it. Like, he's lucky he's not still in prison. Like, he is it again. Nothing he did, like, prevented him from, like, it's only because his victim was smart enough to wear a helmet while riding a motorcycle. And that's it. And I just really don't understand. Like, are we supposed to celebrate this guy? Are we like, oh, well, Matt Bush, #1 overall pick in 2004, and he doesn't end up making his major league debut till 2016. What a great guy. Like, what a story. No, dude, he beat up kids with golf. As a Major League Baseball player, he beat up high school kids drunk with a golf club, threw baseballs at a woman's head because he got mad that he got drunk and passed out. And then he goes on this absolute tirade. I don't even know what you call it. I mean, he went on a war path and he ends up blowing a .18. My respect for Miguel Cabrera is through the roof today. Now, I'm still not a fan of Albert Pujols, but my respect for Miguel Cabrera goes through the roof because when this guy got in trouble, he blew like a .3 something. He had enough alcohol in his system to kill an elephant. Okay, and was he being violent? Was he hurting other people? No, he was just being drunk, like way too drunk, obviously. But to know that this guy was barely twice the legal limit and he was involved in potentially 3 hit and runs, almost killed a guy. Then after the incident with the 72-year-old man, to then go to a strip club and like jump up on the stage like I'm just blacked out, crazy drunk. You blew a .18, you freaking lightweight. I mean, God, it's not something that I'm happy about. I mean, I really thought that once I went through and I checked out this guy's Wikipedia and got the full story that there's like a silver lining, like this is a good story, but like I don't think this is a good story. I think this is a truly negative thing for baseball. I don't understand. I like before the incident where he almost killed the guy and went to prison, this guy had never been above AA. He had never been above AA. But then he comes back and has a tryout at the Golden Corral parking lot, and he's just lucky. Like, he's lucky that he still has an arm. Like, We saw it with Michael Vick. Michael Vick went to prison for 2 years, and actually he was a better quarterback. Like, maybe not the same athlete, but he was a better quarterback. Like, I'm sure in prison this guy didn't have much to do. He probably worked on his arm. And so, yeah, now he's in the major leagues because why? I don't know. He threw a 98-mile-an-hour fastball when the Padres were converting him from shortstop to pitcher. That was in 2004. I don't know what his velocity looks like. I hope to never see him pitch, honestly. The funny thing is, too, is the Texas Rangers are getting credit for like rehabilitating this guy because they have experience with rehabilitating troubled former #1 overall picks like Josh Hamilton. Josh Hamilton is as disgraced now as he ever was during his playing day. Josh Hamilton is a fucking piece of shit. He beat his 14-year-old daughter, and I hope he's absolutely found whatever comes of that. I hope he gets the fullest extent of bad PR, possibly jail, like whatever negative can come from that. I hope it just engulfs Josh Hamilton because I mean, none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes, like, but like I was saying in the first video I made, when I make mistakes with the idea that they're only going to impact and hurt me in the long run. Hopefully, like I'm a detriment to myself. But when you have guys like Josh Hamilton beating the crap out of his 14-year-old daughter, fuck you, Josh Hamilton. Beyond going to jail, you should go to hell for something like that, honestly. So yeah, it's not even funny. Like I laugh because I cry because it's sickening. I don't understand why the Texas Rangers are being, oh, you Matt Bush. If that guy wasn't wearing his helmet, he'd be dead. It has nothing to do with Matt Bush being a good guy and he's sorry he didn't almost kill that guy. Who cares? Even if he is sorry, there's nothing he could have done. You know what he could have done? He could have stopped his car and maybe checked on the guy, and been like, hey, did I just kill you? Oh, you're wearing your helmet? Thank God. I'm going to go bum rush the stage of the strip club before I get taken down in cuffs and arrested and put in prison for 3 years. Yeah, actually, the thing about Josh Hamilton is new to this year. And in fact, if you Google Josh Hamilton and click news, it's gonna take you a couple articles because I'm sure he's been trying to bury it for some time now. Maybe it came out that it was all a hoax or something, but last I read, he was in a heck of a lot of hot water for beating on his 14-year-old daughter. And also the Rangers, you gave him an opportunity. He became the MVP. He put on a show at the Home Run Derby. He also had a relapse because you guys employed Ron Washington, who enjoyed cocaine a lot. So he relapsed with his manager. So literally the organization let down Josh Hamilton and helped literally cultivated an environment where he would relapse. And we're just expected to think, oh, well, Matt Bush, he's just a great guy and he'll probably never drink alcohol or beat up a kid or throw baseballs at a woman's head or run over an old man again. No. It just disappoints me too because Brandon Guyer, why? Like, it's all could have been avoided if Brandon Guyer doesn't let him borrow his car. He probably didn't own a car because he probably couldn't get a car because that's the other thing. He can't drive. The reason he had his tryout at the Golden Corral is because he can't drive. He doesn't have a license in Florida for the next 10 years. 10 years following his prison release, only then can he apply to get a license back. So they had to come to him. He was working at Golden Corral. And you know what? That's where he should have been. I don't know why this guy is in the major leagues. Golden Corral is a perfectly fine life for someone like Matt Bush. Like I get like I said, like making mistakes, but like he was out here harming other people, beating kids with golf clubs and like trying to assault women and running over people with large SUVs. And just having no remorse. He drove to the strip club right after, like just on the run. Just no remorse for this guy. I'm sure that he's given some awesome interviews since being released from prison. I'm just not sure that I buy it. I really don't. I promised a Tale of Two Smiths video. I was talking to my other video. You'll get it. I definitely just found this Matt Bush thing last night and just really want to talk about it. And with how PC everything is and how we're like living in a cancel culture, it's kind of surprising that Matt Bush hasn't been canceled. And maybe it is the thing of like, actually, it's more progressive to not cancel Matt Bush because we're giving him a second chance. No, this is like his fourth chance. And, you know, for someone that's waiting for their actual first chance, it's kind of disgusting to see someone that is just getting to enjoy making million. He signed a $3 million signing bonus that he didn't do shit with for the Padres. He didn't do shit for the Padres, and they gave him $3 million. He settled out of court with the 72-year-old man's family for $200,000. Fuck you, Matt Bush. That entire $3 million should have gone directly to that man's family if you hadn't boozed it all up already. Honestly, that $3 million that he robbed San Diego of should have gone directly to that man's family. It's just, it disgusts me. So, yeah. Looks like we might have actually made it through. I don't think this video was as good as my first one, because with my first one, you were getting my initial reactions, which were just dumbfounded, shocked. I'm sure I left a few details out. I almost left I'm forgetting what detail I almost left out. I'm so disheveled. Yeah, but just fuck Matt Bush. Like, what else can be said? You guys have a great rest of your day. I love you guys all sincerely. Thank you for helping me through today's technical difficulties. Appreciate it. And you will be getting a Tale 2 Smiths video. Just don't know when.